basically the EOSC Knowledge Hub is the main hub that the EOSC Future project developed. And as Venkat mentioned, it includes two components. So one component is the training resource catalog, and another component is the learning platform. These are developed as a whole and offered as a knowledge hub. And they are both intended and developed and intended to support the fair sharing and even more the reuse of training resources in EOSC. We'll see later on what measures we have used to ensure so. So the resource catalog, the training resource catalog, is a catalog of resources pertinent to EOSC. Some of those, some resources are already being onboarded as they were previously onboarded into the EOSC portal and marketplace. So it includes a database which we hope that will grow more and more after this webinar and with time. There is a search interface that I will show you just in a moment, and landing pages for each training resource. The learning platform, on the other hand, is a learning management system. It's a Moodle-based learning management system that hosts some of the resources. This means that in the training resource catalog you have a number of resources, some of which are developed by the EOSC Future project and therefore hosted on the learning platform. Some others are hosted somewhere else, and for example, on your own training platforms and learning platforms. What we have also envisaged is learning paths, which are hosted on the learning platform and which will give once completed badges for users and participants. So the training resource catalog. The training resource catalog it contains the metadata of the training resources that are onboarded, and it's open to everyone. There are a few prerequisites to fulfill before to be able to onboard, and Andre will show you which these requisites and how to fulfill them later on in the hour. So the training resource catalog is accessible, and I would like to share actually the actual platform in a moment. So it's accessible via the EOSC portal at the quite renowned eosc-portal.eu, and you have, this is the home page. It's I apologize because it probably is a bit small, but this is the home page of the portal, and you have the button down here, access training materials. That takes you to the database that I mentioned earlier, and that I will show you now. And at the moment, you also have another entry point, which is the Knowledge Hub landing page, which is available at the link that you find here. Maybe we can also, Andre is well ahead of me and is already pasting in the chat the two links for you to use. So let me see how I can share the other screens. Maybe I should unshare and start sharing again. Let me see how I can do that. Share screen. No. Share. This is here. Okay. Oh no, it was all the time there. I just couldn't find it because I have this thing in front of my eyes. Okay. So this is the EOSC portal. Okay, this is the EOSC portal, and as I was mentioning, you have the access training material button here. You click on it and it takes you through all the catalogs, and then you have trainings here. When you click on trainings, you have the list of what? If it's load, come on. You have the list, okay, there it is. You have the list of trainings, and you can filter by scientific domains, resource type, material type, organization, and other. These tags that you see here, these filters that you see here are basically reflect the data model for the training resources that that you will have to fill when onboarding new resources. So for example, now I can click on just one. Let's see which one is taking us to, probably this one should be. Andre, remind me, yeah, this one is the one internally developed by us, because I want to show you also how is the, hey, what's going on? Probably it's not loading. I would like to show you how it moves to the
you can
this one as well.
Example.
Okay, so this one is the landing page for the training resource that you will see, well, that every users will see. And basically by completing the data model, you will have to fill basically these fields here: the expertise level, the qualification, the content resource type, the duration, the learning resource type, and the learning outcomes. I will show you in a moment the data model, and I will show you the requirements for each of these, because these are some of them have a controlled vocabulary or similar things. So from the EOSC portal, select one resource, and then you click on Access Training. And then in this case, you see, it's taking you to the Open Plato, to the learning platform, to the EOSC Future Learning Platform, because this is actually a resource that we have developed in the midst of the project, and is developed by Work Package 9 and Task 9.2 in particular. And here again, the user has can find all sorts of information like learning outcomes, programs, and so on. What is important to know is that to actually access these resources, you will need to log in, or first to create your account. You click on it, create your account. Sorry, here. You create your new account from here and you find it. So the other entry point is the, I want to move this thing. Let's see if we can, okay, Open Plato, and then this one. Okay, this is the other entry point. This is the landing page of the Knowledge Hub. Now, this may appear a bit confusing for the moment, but basically this is because we are still working on the integration. When this is completed, from the marketplace, you will have a tag on top here on the top of the page that says training, and you will access to this landing page. The landing page here basically has this search bar that searches through the catalog that I showed you earlier, or you can use these, let's say, quick buttons that take you directly to training resources, and again it goes to the catalog. Courses, which are those developed by EOSC Future on the learning platform, and this one, and learning paths. Learning paths, we have at the moment only one, and we are in the process of developing more. But again, this is also, we will also link to eventually other resources that will be onboarded as learning paths in the future. Okay, now, if there is any question, I cannot see any question or hand raised, so Andre or anyone just stop me and hey, what is this? Why it's not showing? Okay. Sorry, that's not so.
Uh,
Yes, Melissa.
we had a raised hand. I don't see it anymore.
Yes, it's Francis Crowley. I had raised my hand, but maybe it's too early. I'll wait a bit. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So these are the two entry points that I showed you, and this is the that I mentioned, and this is the data model. So the data model is available at this link here, and basically it defines all the fields that you will have to complete when onboarding a new resource. So you will see there is basic informations, and then you have basic information, and then you have the attribute name, the definition. So it helps you to understand what actually we would like to have in that specific field. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you have here either the type of the information that you will want. So you have either a string, the provider ID, which is something that you get once you register as an EOSC provider, and Andre will tell you later on, a URL, or you have, for some specific fields, the controlled vocabulary. So you can go on this link. There it is. And you find, well, a short introduction, and then the data model that explains everything here with all the characteristics of each field. Okay, Andre, please, if you can put this in the chat, or I will put this in the chat, or any way you can find it into the presentation. Okay. Well, this is the learning platform. Again, I actually showed you earlier. So this is the home page, and these are the 5 courses that we have developed for now, and that we are delivering in the trainers program, actually even in these days. I think today was the last day of this run. Okay, create an account, and then the help desk. Okay, so basically once you as a provider will have onboarded your resources, basically the users will use the help desk, the main EOSC portal help desk, which is available again on the portal. Let's see. In the portal under the contact us button. I'm struggling to move from. Sorry. No. Okay. I'm struggling to find the thing here on the top. Anyway, so you have this contact us. For yourself, probably as training providers, as resource providers, you may find yourself in challenges or troubles for the registration of some resources. And for that, there is a team that is always available, which is called the EOSC Portal Onboarding Team, EPOT in short, and that you can reach at any moment at this public email address. Okay. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so with this, I have completed the overview of the Knowledge Hub, and we can move now with Andre to see what steps you have to follow for registering new resources. But before to do that, if there are questions now, Francis or whoever else has questions or doubts, we can give a minute for that. I see Q&A. Angus.
Yep. Yes, we have a question.
One of the recommendations for skills for you is to extend the minimal metadata for learning resources to include additional fields for is part of or is based on. The point will be to better allow for a hierarchical relationship. So I have 2 questions. One is, how can we identify the resources when resources are part of collection, and how will changes to the metadata scheme for the portal be managed in the future? Okay, so the relation how we can identify when resources are part of collections, if basically what we have in that is the learning paths. So we onboard a resource as a whole, and how that is registered in onboarded in parts, that's still to figure out. I think maybe Andre or Milica have more information about this, as they followed some of the onboarding parts, and Milica will also talk about the API onboarding. So this is not really answering the question. I don't know if anyone else in the delivery team has. For changes to the metadata schema in the future, that's actually a very good question, Angus. The project basically ends well, end of September or anyway by very soon, and after that, how the platform will be managed, it's still to be decided. So I don't really know what will happen after we close. Basically, the plan for now is to finalize this architecture and make it available and functional for end users. How it will be created in the future after project ends, I can really say. Francis.
Yeah, thank you, Cosimo. This is really helpful. I have a number of questions, really. So we have an EOS Future RDA working group on artificial intelligence, where we've had a number of deliverables basically around ethics and governance. So the first question is, would that be applicable here to transform those deliverables also into training modules for the EOS platform? And then another question is, what would be a timeline? So I understand the project's ending around December. So would we have more time to December to do this? And then the third question is, what is the process through which these training programs are evaluated and accepted or not accepted? So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Francis. So basically, for the training resources, you or the entity registers as an EOS provider, and then the let's say the control and the curation over those resources remains with the provider. So the portal and the team is not actually controlling whether or not the resources are the validity of the resources onboarded. This is beyond the scope of this activity, basically, or at least the task that we have for the project. This is what we are showing now, and what Andre will show now very soon is actually what we are delivering to the world. So that means that until the end of the project, we will ensure that everything is fully functional and working, maybe correct some mistakes or bad or glitches that there may be in the use. And then this is for the EOS community to populate. So it will be there at any moment. As soon as you register as an EOS provider, you can register new resources. So that's
if I may
Yes,
just
Melissa,
add, the institutions who are onboarding we will explain the procedure, but first you onboard the institution, and in order to be onboarded and to be accepted, the institution has to commit to do the periodical reviews to keep the content updated. Also, the EOSC portal onboarding team, they have the right to do the checks, periodical checks, and to actually react if something is outdated, if the links are not missing, etc. So this is not a one-time effort, although we don't know all the details because the project is ending. There will be many of us will be involved in the extension of the project in a different way. So this doesn't end with the end of September. Also, this is not a project. I mean, this effort doesn't end with the end of the projects. There will be a kind of the responsibilities will be transferred to other entities, and there will be somebody taking care about this. So we don't know at this moment the name and the face of these entities, but it doesn't really end. So just keep, we will try to keep you posted, and also you have the help desk, and just ask anything any concerns that you have, just share them.
Thank you. So I will just add about the question before. So I'm Pedro Príncipe, also from this team. Just to clarify angles that I think the suggestions you gave about the metadata are quite interesting. Also for us for sure to think about that and to complement what we have done. So in terms of process, this profile is validated by the board that is responsible by the EOSC profile, resource profile, and the interoperability guidelines. So they are validated internally, they are stable, but of course we can have version 2, version 1, version 2, version 3, so we can have new updates. So this is why we put since the beginning all the information, even before it was approved, all the information available, publicly available in the wiki, so you can comment and suggest, which I think is good. So the suggestion is here formalized in this webinar, and we will consider it. But if you want to comment also, you feel free to do it. They are good suggestions. Currently, we don't have a specific field in terms of metadata in the curated field with the control vocabulary to mention that a specific resource is part of another one. But what we may suggest, maybe we can put this in the guidance of the field, is that people use that, and we know that some people already use it. People can put that in the description, the short description. They can say that specific tutorial is part of another course, or that specific model is part of a bigger MOOC, or whatever. That both are registered, and if both are registered, we can of course put also the links. But this is just a suggestion to enrich the metadata and not to clearly use a specific field for that. But Angus is a good suggestion. We will not consider in this version, because this version is public and done, but we may consider in future versions, because you are part of the community, other people also. There are other things that we should try to complement, because we are not reinventing the wheel. We are engaged with the RDA group about training that is also dealing with this metadata that you know. So I think for sure we will complement this, and we will enrich the schema that we have currently. And
yeah, thanks, Pedro. Yeah, just to add on that, actually what we have now as data model is actually the result of a longer process, because we started actually from the RDA discussion as a group. Let's say as a WP9, we started from the RDA minimal metadata set, and then it actually mentions somewhere here. We had to integrate it into the EOSC training resource profiles. So the result that we have now as a data model is a combination of all these things. Okay, that's the end for my part. Andre, floor is yours.
Okay, many thanks. So now I will showcase the procedure on how to onboard the training resources into the EOSC marketplace. And previously, there are some inclusion criteria that we already talked that you need to be aware of in order to onboard the training resources. I will highlight only some, and then you can see in detail all the inclusion criteria. But for example, one of them specifies that the providers must be first be onboarded as an EOSC provider, as Melissa already said. So an organization needs first to be registered as EOSC provider in the EOSC marketplace, and only then can start onboarding resources, and for example, a training resource. The training resources need to be targeted to EOSC and focus, for example, topics about EOSC services or related to open science, research data management, and then other topics regarding the EOSC ecosystem. The metadata needs to be provided in English, is another of the inclusion criteria. And regarding training resources specifically, the provider needs to follow the data model and fill in all the mandatory fields. So in the data source, in data model, we have some mandatory fields and another optional. So, but the minimum metadata fields that are mandatory, you need to fill in order to get the training resource onboarded in the catalog. And there are another inclusion criteria that you need to follow, but these ones are the most relevant. Below, you can see also a link in which you can see all these inclusion criteria detailed. And moving now to the process to onboard training resources. There are two options to onboard training resources. You can use the web interface that is available in the provider's dashboard. And using this interface, you can onboard each resource individually, or you can use the portal API to onboard a set of training resources at the same time. And there are some notes that you need to know. So the first resource you want to onboard in the marketplace needs to be done via the web interface. Okay, and this first resource will be validated by the EOSC portal onboarding team. This EPOT team are responsible to evaluate the registrations that are being done in the marketplace, even if it is a training resource or a service or data source. The first registration of a provider will be reviewed. And this step aims to establish the quality and interoperability of the first resource that the provider is onboarding, and to ensure that the providers are aware of these requirements, and to ensure that the providers are ensuring that all the criteria are accomplished. Okay. Then, as soon as the EPOT team validates the first resource, the provider can onboard other resources automatically, and they will be directly published in the marketplace. However, the EPOT team is also running audit procedures. Okay, so this team will identify some resources for all the providers, and look to each metadata field and check if it's all okay and if all the details are compliant with the criteria specified by the EPOT team. And now I will showcase how we can use the web interface to onboard a training resource. So first, you need to be registered in the as well as your organization, and you need to go to the EOSC providers portal do the login, and then you can access your dashboard. You will find your organization, and then you can click in the provider's name and go to the dashboard. Inside the dashboard, you will find a set of options for your organization, for your provider, and one of them is related to adding new resources. And as we can see on this example, we have the option to add new training resource. By selecting this option, a new web form is opened, and we have all the metadata fields from the data model to fill in. Okay, we need to fill in all metadata fields. There are some automatic checks to some specific fields. For example, for some we have control of vocabularies. For some we specify that you should use a new URL. So there are some automatic checks to confirm that all is according to the specifications. Once you fill in all the metadata fields and all the automatic checks are okay, you can submit your training resource, okay? And you can also, if you want to onboard an additional training resource, you can repeat the steps to add a new training resource, fill in the metadata fields, and so on, okay? The web interface is we think it's very user friendly. You just need to select the option to add training resource and fill in the metadata fields. Okay. At the beginning, we think it's very important for you to know the data model in order for you to prepare all the metadata you need to fill in order to register to onboard your training resource. And now I will show you briefly going to the providers portal and to show you how you can access your dashboard and how to start onboarding via the web interface. So there are two web pages you can use. You can use the main page, the eoskportal.eu, and then you can select the option in the top menu, Providers Hub, and we are redirected to the EOSC Providers portal, or you can choose directly this web page. Then you need to log in. Okay, you will have an option to log in. I'm already logged in. And you have some information, some details, some support information below, and you can access from this page to your dashboard. I can click here in the provider dashboard. I'm using as an example the OpenAir registration. OpenAir as an EOSC provider. This is why we are seeing here the OpenAir. So in my user account, I have as organization OpenAir. Then I click here in the name of the provider, and I'm entering now the provider dashboard. We have some statistics, and on the left side is the most important part. We have all the actions that a provider can do here in the provider's dashboard. We can see all our onboarded resources or services, and below we have the actions area. Okay, let me zoom out to see all the options. Oops, sorry. So we can add a new service, a new data source, and add a new training resource, among other options. So we just need to click add new training resource. And now we can see our form, okay? We have 6 sections, let's say, of metadata fields. We start with some basic metadata fields with title. The resource organization is automatically filled in, so is the provider that is already registered in the EOSC portal. The author's information, the URL to the resource, okay? And now I will show you an example of a resource already onboarded in order to show you the metadata already filled in. Okay. For example, we have here the authors. For each author, we need to add to select the option add authors. Okay, we need to add a specific box for each author. Here we can add the URL to the resource where the resource is available. The URL resource type. If there are some EOSC services that our training resource is referring to, we can also specify here the service. Okay, we have here the list of services that are registered in the EOSC portal. Then we have another section. We have the description of our training resource, the keywords. Here we should also select one field for each keyword. The license, that is a mandatory field. The mandatory fields are indicated by this symbol, by an asterisk. Okay. On this case, on this example, we have right this way, CC BY 4.0, but following our data model, we should indicate the license indicated by an URL. So we need also to update this for this case, for example, for this registration. The access rights, in here we have a controlled vocabulary for this, and the version date of the of the training resource. We can also specify the target audience, target group, and we also have a controlled vocabulary. The learning resource type, we also have a controlled vocabulary. We just need to select the option, and you can add more than one option. The same for learning outcomes, but here we can write our own text for, as it is intended. The expertise level, we have defined as 3 expertise levels. The content resource type, here we also use a controlled vocabulary, and we can select. The qualification, here you can specify if the course is offering some accreditation, badge, or certification when the course is completed by the user. If not, you just leave the field empty. And the duration that you expect that the user needs to complete the course. We have also some metadata about the availability. So the language of the content, not the. So at the beginning, I said that the metadata needs to be in English. However, the contents of the course could be in one of the European languages, and you can select here which language is used in the contents of the training resource, which is the geographical availability, and here we also have a controlled vocabulary. We also have here a scientific categorization. So we can choose the scientific domains and the subdomain also. If we have more than one represented in our training resource, we can add more. And finally, a contact information for this training resource. By default, these fields are filled in using the contact from the provider. However, we can change and we can add another contact. Okay. In practice, this contact will be used, for example, by the EPOT team to contact the person in charge of this training resource if some update is needed, or if a user wants to contact the owner of the training resource, it's also possible to know which contact to use. Okay. And I already show you all the fields. So in practice, it's very simple. You just need to provide all the mandatory fields and comply with specifications for each field, as for example, the use of controlled vocabularies. Going back to my slides, just to let you know that we have some support materials. We have a step-by-step guide with all these steps in detail. Okay, these steps I show with you and with additional information, and you can use this URL. We aim also to create a more end user friendly this guide. By now, this guide is available in the project wiki, but we will also produce a course with these contents. And in the EOSC Providers Hub, there is an area with detailed documentation for providers on how to become a provider, how to onboard resources, the inclusion criteria. All of these details are here on the EOSC Providers Hub, including the details for training resources. Okay. And that's it from my part. I'm not sure if we have some questions. If you have questions, we have some time to answer.
Andre, there was one question about the login AAI, because I said that they don't really need to register, they can use the EI feature. So if you could just log out and show and demonstrate
Okay.
how it works, what they see.
Yes. Okay. So we have here the option to log in, and as you can see, we have all these options. We can log in using OpenAir account, Daria account, using Google and other infrastructures, as well as to search here our infrastructure, our organization. You can search here for your institution and follow the procedure to log in.
Yeah, which means that you don't have to fill out a registration form and wait for somebody to approve your account. You can immediately log in.
Yes. And every time you have some specific question regarding the onboarding of resources, you can use the EPOD team mailing list. Okay, and this way you are sending your question directly to the team that is managing the onboarding, and the team that is able to help you.
There is
Alexandra?
Yes, hello. Thank you. I'm not sure if this is the right time for this question, but having seen these steps about onboarding and registering the trainings, I was wondering if there is any option that we can use to pre-test the platform with the users before we actually launch it, like, because basically when I make a course, I would test it on whatever platform I uploaded before releasing it.
Okay,
Does that
so
make sense?
if I understand well, you can, yeah, so when you have your training resource ready to be published and to be disseminated with the public, you can onboard your resource here in the provider's dashboard, and you need to know all the metadata fields to fill in the registration form, and that's it. You can check previously to submit the onboarding. You can check, and the form automatically runs some checks to confirm if all the metadata fields are okay.
If I may add an additional explanation, because I see this as an issue. You are not actually onboarding doesn't involve uploading your content in the EOSC marketplace. You are onboarding means that you are adding the metadata that describe your content, and your content remains on your platform. So here the Knowledge Hub acts as a gateway. So by presenting the metadata in the Knowledge Hub, you make your resource more visible. Stakeholders can search centrally. They can identify that your resource as relevant, and then they can access it, but it remains on your platform, and you don't really need any testing whether it works on the Knowledge Hub or not. It will work on your platform.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you so much. This clarifies everything. Thank you.
Okay, we have also Francis with their hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Malika. I also found that very helpful. But just to get clear, when we register, we don't register as a provider, we register with a provider. Is that correct? And we can choose whichever provider we want to register with.
Yes, you need, as a user, you need to be a provider representative for that provider. Okay, so first, imagine that we are starting the process to onboard an organization. Imagine you are representing your organization. You need first to onboard the organization if you are the person in charge of it. And your user will be representing the organization, and you can onboard the training resource that refers to that organization. If you have more than one organization, yes, you in your dashboard, you can select which provider you want to choose to onboard the training resource. I'm not sure if I explained.
No, it's not clear. When we onboard our organization with a provider, or we onboard our organization with EOSC. What is it?
So we are explaining two steps. One is login, because I mentioned in the chat, I mentioned the provider, this is identity provider. So you've logged in, and then you onboard the provider, which means that you register your organization in the EOSC provider dashboard, because you want to make your organization visible in the EOSC marketplace. This is very important. This is a crucial step, because there must be an organization, an authority behind any resource, whether it is a service, whether it is a training resource, whether it is a, I don't know, a repository, a data source. So there must be an organization. So you are registering your organization as a provider, but you can, for example, be associated with multiple providers. For example, I'm a kind of a representative for several providers in my country, and I have those different providers registered. So when I log in as myself to the provider's dashboard, I see multiple organizations. But you can also have only one. So if you're representing only one, or for example, your university, then you register your university, and then when you log into the provider's dashboard, you just click that one link and then choose the other options to onboard the training resource. It's better now.
Yeah. I mean, in other words,
thank you. I think just need to go through the process and move on.
Yeah. In other words, individuals do not provide trainings. It's the individual via the institution, the EOSC provider, that provides the training. But I cannot register as a provider as Cosimo Vallo. I will be registering as LifeWatch, Eric.
No, that I understand, but I don't understand the relationship between the organizations and the providers. Is each organization then a provider?
Basically, yes. If you have to offer something in the EOSC marketplace, then you are a provider. Otherwise, you don't need to register. You can just use it.
But OpenAir is also a provider where organizations. So do you register also with OpenAir, or you only register your university, for example? I'm not sure.
It depends what you want to onboard. So for example, OpenAir will onboard some stuff, but if you're offering the services that are provided by your organization, then you will register as a provider. For example, if you have a repository that is harvested by OpenAir, you will onboard the repository, you will connect it with the OpenAir, ensure that it is harvested, but you will have to onboard the repository to register the repository with the EOSC Marketplace. OpenAir won't do this for you.
Okay.
So I think we can proceed to the next topic. That is regarding to the second option to onboard training resources using the portal API. And that will be presented by Milica. So I will stop sharing my screen and give the floor to Milica. You are muted, Milica. We can see your screen.
Great.
And now,
Yeah, it's fine now. So what Andre explained, this is great if you have 1, 2, 3, or several resources. But if you have more, this is a time-consuming process, and it takes quite a lot of time to onboard each of these resources, because you have 6 sections and there is a lot of metadata that you need to provide. For this reason, the EOSC provides an API, actually a set of APIs that can be used to onboard multiple resources. So if you have, for example, a dozen of resources, you can use this API. Also, this API is very convenient if you have multiple resources that have already been onboarded, and then you want to update them. I don't know, to add some additional metadata or whatever. It's much more convenient to do it via the API instead of going to the dashboard and clicking each of them and changing the metadata. And also, it's very convenient, and it's actually the best way to onboard the so-called catalogs. So I need to explain what these catalogs are. There have been many projects supporting EOSC. So we have research infrastructures, we have science consortia, we have science clusters, we have, I don't know, major institutions, etc. We also had a series of regional projects supporting EOSC, and each of these entities, they have developed some catalogs. In some cases, these are the catalogs of services. For example, the NIFOS catalog, it's a catalog of services. NIFOS was a project, it ended last year, that was meant to support EOSC. There was another project, for example, EOSC Nordic, etc. So NIFOS covered the Southeast Europe, EOSC Nordic covered the Nordic countries. And each of these catalogs already contains some resources. So also there was a project, it was a kind of a thematic project, SHOCK, and they have their SHOCK marketplace, which is also a catalog for this set of disciplines, social sciences and humanities. Also, there were the so-called pilot training catalogs developed by Elixir, TESS, SSA Training Discovery, Toolkit, Daria, EOSC Pillar. This one is for research data management, etc., particularly useful. And there are several dozen resources at least in each of these catalogs. So it would be pointless going to the provider's dashboard and onboarding each provider, and then after that onboarding each particular resource. That's where we use these APIs. So basically, if you're a librarian, I have to make a kind of, provide additional explanation. So these APIs are, if you want to use them, then you need a kind of a technical support. You need people who know how to deal with these APIs. API is a quite standardized approach. API is an acronym from Application Programming Interface. And this is usually actually a method to communicate between two machines very directly, either using a command line or using the HTTP request generation tools. There are quite many of them available online. You can download them. But basically, if you want to use an API, then you won't be doing it yourself. If you're a librarian or repository manager, you will need professional assistance from an IT person who knows how to do this. And all these explanations that are available, the documentation should be very, very clear to this person. So just find a person and they will be able to implement this. So here on the EOSC portal Open API, there is this URL. And there you will find a whole list of various options. So if you want to onboard a service, to onboard a training resource, to onboard a catalog, all sorts of stuff, a data source, etc., you can find these instructions and the documentation how to do this. And there are these commands that are used to perform a particular task. So machines understand this. If you, for example, say post, it means okay, make a new record in the catalog. So the IT person communicates directly with the EOSC marketplace, and this command means okay, make a new record. If you say put, that means update the existing record. If you say get, this means give me a list of these and these resources that are already in the EOSC marketplace according to these parameters. So this should be very, very easy to understand for the IT people who are using the APIs. In order to use this API options, you need to actually authorize the web page to read your account details. And then you go to this URL and just click the authorize, and you will be prompted to do this kind of login that Andre showed. So using the AI option, and you will get a token, which is an alphanumeric string that you will use when creating those requests to the EOSC marketplace via the API. So we'll provide this token in order to say to the EOSC marketplace, well, this is me, I belong to this organization, etc., etc. So this is the way machines communicate. Also, these tokens, they expire quite quickly. So you can you have options to obtain a new token or to refresh a token, and everything is quite clearly explained in this explained in the documentation. And also by the end of the month, there should be a course, self-paced course available in this learning platform Open Plato. So you will have to you will be able to use it and to train yourself how to do this, or to train your IT people how to do this. So basically, the first step in this process of onboarding using the API is to prepare the resource description and to validate it. So you rely on this. Pedro has already provided this link. So in this, you have to prepare all this metadata. And I have to say that no matter whether you're using the user interface or you are using the API, this moment of preparing information about the provider, about the resource, it's a crucial moment, because that's where people get stuck. They usually start the onboarding procedure, they start to populate the form, and then they realize that they're missing some information, and then they say it's complicated. It's not that complicated. Yes, it's time consuming to type information in all of these fields, but if you do good preparations, if you have a look at these tables and then provide all the information you have, then it's quite easy, just copy paste. And it's also with the APIs, merely copy and paste. So basically you are using this post command, and there are instructions how to do this, and just validate whether this information provided, the metadata is there, whether something is missing, etc. Then the next step is to use this post command training. So they are a bit different. If I can go back, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. But here, the previous one has the validate in the end. That's the difference. This one is just post training resource. So this command is used to create a new record. And you can also, it's not limited to one, you can provide the metadata for multiple resources and use this command to onboard a whole set of multiple resources, a dozen or 100 or whatever. Just prepare the metadata, put it here, and then use the command just to communicate this directly to the EOSC marketplace. Also, you can include the whole catalog. And it's a bit different. So this is, for example, if you are already onboarded as a provider. So the first step, no matter whether you want to use the user interface or to use the API, you need to onboard yourself as a provider. And then you can choose whether you are going to use the user interface or the API. So for catalogs, it's a bit different because you need to onboard the catalog, the whole catalog. And there are some tricky things there that haven't been yet resolved, but I will draw your attention to them. In order to onboard the catalog must meet some criteria, and they are listed, they are provided in the documentation. So basically, in order that this catalog, this is not just a collection of anything. So the catalog must have a documented and a methodical approach for the validation of information about the resources included. This basically means that there is a kind of a policy and that you are following this policy when accepting these records, actually the content. So you're not accepting just any kind of resources, but there is a kind of a policy, and also there is some curation and what you're, because we don't want to have trash in the EOSC marketplace. That's basically the point. Also, you need to have to ensure that these records are kept up to date. We had a question about this. So in order to, you as a provider commits that you're doing this. If you don't, then there are these audit procedures, and your resources may be eliminated after some time because they're not up to date, because you are not taking good care of them. Also, it is very important that when you're onboarding a catalog, you actually synchronize the records from your catalog. You're not making any changes, and this is the tricky part. For example, in the NIFOS service, we have NIFOS service catalog, so I can't, for example, use it to onboard data sources because it's not supported, because that's the way it is. So it's important to understand. So you have to do all the changes. If you need to change a resource, a training resource, you are making the changes in your catalog, and then you just press a button or use the API to update it, to synchronize it with the EOSC marketplace. So that's also important to understand. If you want to do the changes using the provider's dashboard in the marketplace, then you need to use the manual approach and use the user interface. So, or actually use an API, but don't go through the catalog, but go directly. So there are some decisions that you need to make. But if you have a catalog with many resources, of course, that you will be onboarding the catalog. Also, you need to ensure that the policies, your policies of your catalog and the EOSC marketplace policies are consistent, and you can provide sufficient information in the documentation. And also, you need this EOSC security operational baseline. So you need to also to comply with this. And there is also a kind of an agreement. It's quite simple. It's basically you send an email, but yes, you have to prove this to kind of sign off. There is an agreement. This is quite formalized. So this is when you ask about warrants, about the future, about these things. So these formal things are there to ensure that there is sound communication between you as a provider, and that somebody is taking care of the staff that is onboarded to the EOSC marketplace, because basically this quality control moment is very important if you're trying to offer things to users. And then in order to onboard the community catalog, you basically follow similar procedures. So you onboard the catalog operator. This is an entity. This needs to be a legal entity. And you follow the same steps as if onboarding any provider. And this step, this provider, this operator is approved by the ePOD team. So you have to wait for them to approve you. And then you take the other step to onboard the catalog. And this step also has to be approved by the pod team. And then you can onboard the resources and use the API for this. And you need to indicate, when using this API, you need to indicate this. You get, when you're onboarding the catalog, you get a kind of a reference ID, reference number, and you need to indicate this reference number in the API, in what you provide through API, in order to identify that this is a part of the catalog. Also, you can onboard all the resources from your catalog, and you don't really need to onboard all of them. You can onboard just a set of these resources. In some cases, for example, in the NIFOS catalog for services, we are not really using the API. We can use the API, but to onboard services, not other types of resources, we just need to press a button. So it's a kind integrated programmatically in this catalog, and it's simpler. You just press a button and the resource gets onboarded. But basically, you can do the same using this API. That's basically all that I have to say. And yes, we can answer some questions if there are any.
Okay, many thanks, Milica, for your presentation and detailed clarification on how to onboard via API or onboarding via the catalog. We have time to answer some questions if you have. And we are also available. I would like to reinforce this. We are available after this session to reply to some specific questions you may have. If you would like to onboard your training resources in the marketplace. If there are no questions, we can move to the final part of our webinar. That is, let's say, after webinar session. Let me share my screen.
Andrea, we have a raised
Alexandra.
hand from Alexandra.
Please, Alexandra.
Yeah, I was thinking about the presentation of this API, and I was wondering what is the workload for me as a complete dummy into. I had to Google what API is. I'm sorry, I'm rather ignorant about this. I'm more, I do the research, I create the content, I would make a course, but I don't know this kind of stuff. Do I really need to hire some an IT person to do this, or is it something that I can do myself? At this point, it seems like I can't, but I would like your.
I wouldn't try. I'm also a dummy, but it depends on what you have. So what do you really have? What do you want to onboard?
Like if I have 20 courses on my platform, that would be too much to do by hand. So it would be great if I could update them automatically. But like I can deal with a WordPress platform. I can deal with SPSS and stuff like this, but how much time would I need to invest to learn how to do this myself? Or is that
I can't answer this question.
The one thing I can't answer the question either. The only thing I know is that you need to be ready on your hand as well. So your platform need to expose the APIs in order to be harvested automatically. So I'm guessing it's not only creating new entries, but it's also exposing all the information that are needed for the automated harvesting. So it's definitely not something that it's that straightforward.
Right. Okay. So I need to have the IT service for this. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you already have some IT people at your institution, just ask them. They might be able to help you.
Yeah. Thank you.
If there is maybe an email that we can share for participants, because I'm guessing now, I mean, it's been 1 hour and a half and we have given quite a lot of information, and that's probably the first time for many of the participants to hear this. So I'm guessing that right now questions may not be there, but by the time they go back to their offices and check what they want to do, probably questions will come. So
Okay.
I'm wondering if we can give I don't know an email for I don't know the 9.3 mailing list or something like that.
Or we can use the help desk. They
Or we
can
can use the
create
help desk.
tickets and we will receive.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you just I don't know show that how
Mhm.
to do
Yes,
that?
I can. I can.
Because I'm pretty sure that by when you sit to actually do the process, then plenty of questions will come. So let's make sure that we are reachable.
Yes. So in the EOSC Providers Hub homepage or in the Marketplace homepage, you will find this Contact Us button in the top menu. And you have here distinct options to contact us. So you can use this online form to send your message, or click on this Contact Us button and you will be redirected to the helpdesk ticket system, and you can create inside the ticket system your question. However, if you see that it's more easier to use this online form, it's the same. This will generate a ticket system, and our team will receive your question.
Yeah.
So regarding our presentation, we already finished the presentation, and now we are available to answer some specific questions you may have regarding the onboard of your training resources. If, for example, if some of you already try to onboard and find some issue or difficult, you can share with us and ask your questions. So we are available until 4 o'clock if needed to answer and to clarify some topics you may have. If not, for those that doesn't have any question, the webinar part has ended, and you can leave. And many thanks again for being here for this webinar. And your participation was very useful for us, as Cosimo said. Your feedback is very relevant for us in order to try to improve some things, and to have some topics also for the future, if possible, to improve the process and to make easier the process to onboard your resources.
And as Andre mentioned at the beginning, on the event page, as soon as we process it, it will be available both the PowerPoint presentation and the recording of this hour, hour and a half. So you can always go there and retrieve it. So thank you also from my hand for your participation, and we look forward to seeing your resources populating the EOS Knowledge Hub.